Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. Episode number 74. It's about behavior charts, behavior systems.
Again?
And it's not
some more? What?
It's not probably what you think it is.
Okay.
Today, we're dealing with an issue that we find really interesting.
Yeah.
And so it's that a lot of people have heard us talking about behavior charts and they've said to us, well, good news, we don't use them.
That's right.
And then we say, good.
Or
And
not
then
everybody uses them. So
Yeah.
we're pretty good.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that is true. It is better if fewer people are using them. But let's talk about what them is. So when you hear behavior charts, you're probably thinking like a red light, green light, sticker wall. You might even think, we don't use old school charts like that at all. But what we want you to do is figuring that what you're doing might actually count in the same ways. Wah, wah, wah. Meaning your dojo system is the same as a behavior chart. And we're going to talk about some simple questions just to help you figure out, well, is this the kind of behavior chart that they're talking about? Because it's disguised in some way. And then we want you to identify if you're using something like that, that would be a public system of keeping track of students' behaviors. And we're going to tackle the biggest pushback also, which is, but kids need consequences.
Yeah, for sure. And so this is another instance, Julie, where getting the handout before you listen to the whole episode is
Yeah.
helpful, though I know a lot of people are working out, driving, and whatnot when they listen to us. So don't worry, we'll give you support as we talk through the episode. But the download is at inclusiveschooling.com/download 74. And it has four main sections. It's like, okay, how do I know if this is a behavior chart? We're using that in air quotes because it could take on many forms, like Julie said, a dojo system. The handout also has if you have this practice, try this instead. It talks about how come kids are just a quick glance at why we're seeing these behaviors, and that's often these stressors. And then even talking to families about, well, we've always sent these kind of reports home, or you've always communicated through this system. What are you doing? Because, that kid over there needs to know that they're messing up, right? So we'll talk a little bit about those four big sections. So at inclusiveschooling.com/download 74. And then we'll also put in the show notes other episodes where we talk deeply about consequences, about behavior charts, all of that, because this one is really about understanding that people want to give feedback, or people want to give consequences, or people want to, whatever it is, and they think that they're not using a behavior chart to do that, but they really are.
Christy, I'm going to go right in on this kind of a fast section because
Good.
it's like, let's talk about, is it a behavior chart? Is this the kind of thing that we are saying to bag, to stop using, to cease to exist? And these are the indicators. Are you ready? Number one, is this thing public? Can other students see it, or can they hear it? As an example, I really like how Christy is sitting crisscross applesauce, right? That is stating publicly that Christy's doing a great job. It is also stating publicly that others are not. And so if any child's internal state or behavioral level is visible to the group, I would call it public, and I would say, let's stop using it.
Good. Okay, that was helpful.
Yeah, a second one, is it one size fits all? Like, is it a system that
class-wide or a school-wide?
And it's assuming that all kids regulate in the same way, and all kids get rewards or class-wide targets or universal clips or cubes or stars or marbles or whatever. And then if it's a one size fits all, then every student is expected to respond to the same system. And I would say, bag it.
Well, and Julie, I'll say I'll put in show notes a link to some frequently asked questions about our humanistic brain-based approach to behavior and PBIS or teaching pyramid. Because when you say one size fits all, and then I chimed in with class-wide or building-wide or school-wide, people are going to go, wait, we have to do that because we're a PBIS or because we're doing teaching pyramid. So look for the show notes in this episode to help clarify because this one size fits all, this class wide universal is not what is required when it's thought of in these harmful ways.
Okay. The third reason you would want to know, like, yep, this is the kind of thing that we're suggesting that you bag, is if it's highly symbolic. If it relies on colors, tokens, points, paws, stars, clips, rainbows, glitters, that
Even
sort
if
of,
they're all nice, right? Even if they're all pretty unicorns and pretty colors.
that's right. It's highly symbolic. And so what that means is if I'm a young child or if I'm a,
Dysregulated child.
yes, I'm expected to have to think, okay, wait, so two unicorns equals a pizza party on Friday, which is highly symbolic and confusing. And it is asking people to interpret symbolism in ways that are very cognitively taxing, if not impossible. And so the last thing related to the symbolism is it's usually involving delayed gratification, meaning on next Thursday, because we don't have school on Friday, you're going to get this kind of party because you behaved well on 2 Tuesdays ago, is absolutely too difficult for most humans when behavior is most often not a choice. It's an actual nervous system response. And so all this keeping track of points and stars and glitters and unicorns is well intentioned, but not only is it impossible for students to cognitively understand in most cases, it is also rewarding a system that is not a decision made by students.
And so, what we're going through right now are the part of the download for this episode that is a guide for educators to know, are we using what Julie and Christy talk about when they say bag the behavior charts? Because again, we usually hear, oh, we're not doing it. And then we look at their system and it's still public. It's one size fits all. It's highly symbolic. And we'll give you the fourth indicator. But if you want the download, it's inclusiveschooling.com/download 74. And so the fourth one, Julie, to know, is this something we should bag? What is it?
It's does it shift behavior through shame, comparison, or competition? So, most often the system is saying what's good, what's bad, what's wrong, what's off track, what's right, what's on track. Now, yes, we teach kids these concepts all day long. That's okay, sort of. But when we're using a standard system, it means there are certain students with certain disability labels that will always be off track, that will always be in the wrong. And it's a very ableist way to think about what is, quote, right and wrong in school systems. So, as a person with ADHD, and I grew up in a school system that used these things all the time, I was constantly below board. I remember this ship idea. I was below board all the time. I
Mm.
was also on red often. I was also not having quiet hands and quiet feet often. I was always doing the things that were being displayed publicly that were really my my own nervous system with significant ADHD managing in a classroom. And I was taught and learned a lot of ways that I was wrong, problematic. My body itself was in the wrong for needing to move. And I just needed to try harder, do better, etc. So that is a system that uses shame or comparison, and it uses a standardized way of being to say you are not standardized, therefore you are wrong, bad, or not deserving of the double unicorn.
I love the double unicorns today.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so good. So there's even more on the handout, but I think we'll wrap up this session, Julie, with a little bit about the guide for families. So we just gave the guide for educators and the team, school-based team members thinking about, oh, should we bag this practice? And we gave 4 indicators of what would be a criteria for bagging it. But how do we start talking to families about what our system is and why we don't do things that they may have seen, when back in the day watching Super Nanny, right?
That's right. So this really very plainly in one page explains the four reasons that they're not using behavior charts
Okay.
and what you're doing instead. And so it
And Julie,
says,
that makes me think if you're a school leader, you could
mm,
use these and talk to your staff about it. If you're co-teaching, you could talk to one of your other co-teachers about why you're not going to do this. Like it doesn't have to just be for families.
that's a good point, Christy. So number one, behavior charts publicly display a child's struggles and or display a student's disability label. And so it's an ableist concept. And when you do it publicly, it creates a shame-based experience for students. The second is young children cannot understand highly symbolic color systems and delayed gratification. The third is behavior charts do not teach self regulation. In fact, we spend a ton of time and energy on the chart itself, managing who's doing what and when, instead of how do we teach actual self regulation through co regulation. The fourth is our goal is belonging in schools, in our systems, not compliance. And so we've got to create a system where trust is built between teachers and students. And one of the worst ways to build trust is to use a shame-based system.
And what I love about the way this handout ends is with, so what do I do instead? So I can still do private check-ins, which we talk about in other episodes, what that means and looks like. How do I co-regulate and help students calm? And we've talked about how calming is just meaning I'm in homeostasis. It's a farce, or it's not productive to think everybody is just, saying or sitting there really in this like non-active state. It just means I'm in homeostasis. We have routines, we have visual supports, we've reduced stressors, we've taught emotional literacy when students are regulated, and we've given logical and immediate consequences, which we mean as feedback. So there are other episodes that go deeply into what to do instead, and we'll link to them in the show notes. But we wanted to have one episode that said, hey, let's be clear that we're probably talking about some practice in your classroom.
Yeah, that's right. So today we made clear that behavior charts aren't just the obvious stuff. If it's public, one size fits all, symbolic, or shame based, it's the kind of thing we want you to move away from. But that doesn't mean chaos. It means smarter, safer systems. So when someone says kids need consequences, here's the truth. They need feedback, they need boundaries, they need follow through. They don't need to be humiliated to understand it. And as always, we want you to keep leading with dignity, equity, and belief in every single learner. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.